As well, you have to remember, and a lot of people who don't watch the academy too much will not know that he gets a lot of minutes in the academy as well. Some weekends he's playing for the 21s one day and then he's with the first team the next. So he is getting minutes, albeit not too many with the first team.
Yeah, but we actually had the chance to speak to him after the game, and he was talking about how important that is to retain his sharpness, because if you're basically not playing a whole lot, you need to get your minutes elsewhere. And he said, he's still eligible to play for the 18s, never mind the 21s. And there was a good example recently, wasn't there? We played 20 odd minutes against Brighton in the FA Cup, and then the next day he's playing for the 21s against West Brom and scores, and they win 4-3. So, yeah, I mean, Liverpool have got a diamond on the hands, undoubtedly, and you've seen the statistics there. It backs up Arne Slot's point that, not too many 17-year-olds are playing more than Rio Ngumoha at the moment. So, I just think you've got to temper it a little bit. I can understand the clamour for him to play more, but particularly in his position where you're a winger and you're encouraged to create and try things, if he's doing one or two little step overs that don't quite come off and Liverpool need to win a game to finish in the top 4 or 5, you don't want to be putting that pressure on teenagers. So I can understand why a lot of supporters want to see more of him, but I think he's in an ideal position where he is right now.
I think you've always got to be careful. People aren't just demanding someone goes into the team because they're not happy with the form of those he'd come in for. These are senior guys who, it's very difficult for Arne Slot to say, okay, whether it's Cody Gakpo or Mo Salah, especially when, certain players come off the pitch, they're not particularly happy at the best of times. Yeah. So to put a 17-year-old in, that's a hell of a call. It might be one that people agree with, and it may well, in the moment's right, it will happen. But I think, as you say, it's knowing the right time to do that, and it may well be the right time is closer than any of us thought a week ago.
Yeah, well, he was a big part, wasn't he, of the dramatic closing stages. Let's have a look firstly at what we think is the winner at the time via Alexis Mac Allister, who, Maz, again by his own standards, maybe not quite having the season that he would like so far, but never ever gives up, and he thinks he's grabbed the elusive goal, only for it to be ruled out for handball. It comes off his elbow, he said part of his back as well. By the letter of the law, probably the correct decision.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, there's so many this season where we look back at everything and we say, without intervention of our favourite thing, VAR, would that stand, would that not? But I think as well, even there was almost just kind of like a millisecond there. I think he probably maybe thought that he knew that wasn't gonna stand as well. But it's just, again, just putting himself in those situations, just like for so many of these Liverpool players, it has been a frustrating season so far for Alexis Mac Allister, but keeping that fight going right to the end, they're just saying, you sure it wasn't my back? But, it comes out with the goods, doesn't he, right at the end of the match anyway, so all went well in the end for Alexis Mac Allister.
Yeah, it did. I mean, he did say in his post-match interviews he always felt like he was going to get another chance, and so it proved to be. Let's have a look at the goal that ultimately did prove to be the winner via Alexis Mac Allister. And did you feel, Gorsty, another chance was coming? Were you as optimistic as Alexis?
Actually, I was. As it goes, I haven't always been this season, admittedly, but I thought Jamie Carragher was excellent in his analysis of that, in terms of it would have been so easy for Dominic Szoboszlai to just either go right to Joe Gomez or left to Andy Robertson. Instead, he's got the confidence to find the half a yard that he needs to put the dangerous ball in, and Liverpool have just got bodies in there, haven't they, trying to keep it alive. And what a moment that was for the supporters right there in the away end, reminiscent of Darwin Núñez's winner at around a similar time, actually, in the game a couple of years back. And Liverpool have been involved in 7 games this season where there's been a winning goal after the 90th minute, which just shows you that you don't leave Liverpool games early. And that was the 3rd one that they've been, the beneficiaries of, and they've conceded 4. So.
As well.
That's what you go to football for. That's what you go to
don't go
away
to football
for
the VA. Oh my God!
I mean, it's great for fans, but I'll rewrite.
That's true.
The microscopic analysis now, though, I mean, it just drives you mad.
But how were you feeling with that? Because it wasn't particularly clear cut, and you'd thinking.
Well, it's just, you always think. Look, I go back to the Liverpool had a perfectly good goal from Luis Diaz rule, and after that, VAR was finished for me. That he couldn't stop the game and say, "Oh, we made the mistake." And the microscopic analysis. It's so subjective, because it's the most important moment is the goal, but you could almost argue throw-ins are as important now, or corners, and nobody wants that as well. But I just find it, oh God, I mean, I suppose with offside it's a little bit more But, with the McAllister one, it's like he's not trying to handle the ball, is he? But there you go.
I know it's frustrating, isn't it? On McAllister, Maz, in terms of him, we said maybe not quite having the season so far that he would have liked, but goals-wise, that's his first in the Premier League this season. 27 games he'd gone in the top flight without a goal. He's got some big goals, notably Real Madrid, of course, in the Champions League, got the winner in that one, but you would think between now and May, that will be definitely something he'll be trying to get a few more of.
100%, and for Alexis McAllister, just like with so many players in this Liverpool squad, it's all now as well, obviously so important in a Liverpool shirt, but they're obviously building up to all being well for them a huge sort of month or so ahead as well with their countries, isn't it? So it's all about him building momentum, getting those goals, but also then trying to build towards that World Cup. But when you mentioned that stat there, I had to read that back a couple of times because he's obviously been involved in so many amazing goals and big moments in key games in the last couple of seasons for Liverpool. I was so surprised to read that was his first Premier League goal. But hopefully now that's kind of started a run for him, and he's just going to find that groove again.
He's come close a few times, to be fair. Manchester City springs to mind, but just let's have a look in terms of late drama. So we're talking about late winners this season, but it's actually, in terms of the entirety in the top flight, Gorsty, a bit of a hallmark of this team. You can see there 48 90-minute plus winners, which is some distance ahead of Arsenal, the next best on a 36. I mean, it's a test of the nerves, to say the least, but there's no better feeling, is there, at the same time?
No, I mean, Manchester United are always held up, aren't they, as the team who seems to score all the late winners during Sir Alex Ferguson's time, but clearly it is Liverpool, and it's again, I've seen Jamie Carragher explaining this one, and he was talking about it being almost part of the fabric of the club, and that statistic there tells its own story, doesn't it? 3 of those have been this season, and it's one of those where if there's a result that's in the balance, the longer it goes on and you're playing Liverpool, you know that they've got this reputation for the ability to basically...
It's a mentality thing as well, isn't
it just puts a little bit of doubt in the opposition's mind, doesn't it? And that's where you can sort of make all the differences with these fine margins that you have now, and we've seen it so many times this season, haven't we, that Liverpool go to the final whistle, and a lot of the time they're often forced to because of the games that have been in the balance, but it's certainly a good string to have as part of your bow.
We touched on Dominic Szoboszlai's involvement in the build-up, the goal. Just to go back to him, we've spoken about him every week, and I think many people player of the season so far, but he changes position throughout the course of the game, and it became probably more influential in that second half when he's in his more familiar midfield role, Chris.
Oh yeah, the goal sums that up, doesn't it? The confidence he's playing with at the moment, and you wonder where Liverpool might be without him this season. I mean, his ability to play so...
A big moment, to be fair, but as for the scenes in the away end, just take a look at this. We've highlighted the fans, but take a look towards the bottom of the screen as well, and keep your eye on Ibou Konate, who Maz puts together an impromptu cartwheel, the big man, which is pretty agile for someone of his stature, I think.
Yeah, I don't think any of us were expecting that from Konate. I mean, look at this. Great. It's like some of the tricks and flips in the Olympics over the last couple of weeks, isn't it? No, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, Chris just raised a good point there. He's surprised he didn't pick up some kind of injury, but thankfully he didn't, Ibou Konate. But a word on him, Gorsty, because fair to say at times, again, the start of the season maybe didn't quite go how he would have wished for it, but arguably man of the match against Nottingham Forest, and that's not been the only man of the match performance that he's put in recent weeks. Yeah,
he's been really good, hasn't he, since he come back into the team, and fair play to him for putting his hand up recently. He was obviously on compassionate leave, wasn't he, following the death of his father, but he's put his hand up to return for that Newcastle game because he knew that the team was struggling for centre-backs, and come back in. And he's been brilliant. He was probably man of the match in that Newcastle game. I thought he was fantastic at the weekend as well. And him and Van Dijk now with 3 successive clean sheets. I think it's nearly 300 minutes without them conceding. And once you've got that settled partnership like those two have got, you could argue that it's been forged because there aren't too many other options really. But if they can stay fit, and continue that partnership, Liverpool have got a great chance of building on that platform and going on to finish inside the Champions League places because Van Dijk, we know how good he has been and still is, and Konate has shrugged off a bit of a patchy sort of first third of the campaign, and the last few weeks has been fantastic.
And I think as well, as Paul says, to be able to do that after going through such a difficult time personally is real testimony to him.
Absolutely, yeah. I think since he came back for Newcastle game, he's been flawless. He's just cut out. I mean, even when he was playing not so well. It was kind of just mistakes, wasn't it? It wasn't like the overall package was poor. It was just, there would be one aberration, like the Leeds game's one that springs to mind. You know, up until that moment, everything's great, and then that one incident means, oh, he's had a terrible game. Well, he had a terrible moment, really, which then proved costly because the momentum swung. So he seems to have, the concentration level. I mean, it was all with the concentration levels in that first half. Van Dijk, with Virgil, I mean, I still think he's playing as well as anybody with centre half wise in the league, and the concentration levels to sort of shut them out, and get the clean sheet would give you the basis to nick it later on.